Right, folks, welcome back. Episode 10 of the Koi Talk podcast. I've been away for a little while because we've had a bit of operational nightmare, just a late between us and Chris deciding to be very selfish and having a baby. So I'd like to keep reminding him of that one.
Not like you got a tan as well.
Mate, always, mate. So, I would like to introduce and welcome our guest today, Tim Waddington. Really happy to get Tim here. Feel like we're quite a decent connection, being some of the younger guys in the koi game at the minute and sort of coming from things from a different angle. If you've not seen it already, Tim's work on YouTube has been pretty fantastic, to be honest with you. He sort of beat us all to the game with that one and got a pretty awesome audience. So
Pure luck.
That's
all it was.
We'll see, mate. I don't believe in luck.
No, I mean, when I met we took some YouTubers to Japan. Yeah. And one of them was a guy called Raw Fishing. And if you look at his videos, I mean, you know, when I mentioned that I was with him on some of my videos in Japan, everyone went, "Oh, that guy's crazy," you know, and they don't like, you know, but he does them videos to shock type YouTube videos, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. But when you speak to him away from the YouTube thing, he's one of the nice guys, and he'll give you so much help and everything like that. And then all it was is that I was thinking about that. And then when I came back from Japan, we just started building a new system, and it had nothing to do with YouTube or anything like that. But then he just said, "Just video it, just, you know, video it," and that's how he started. Really, I wouldn't have done it if I hadn't met him. So it was just the right. You pretty much follow
the same sort of vibe as I do, I believe. Unscripted, unedited, just sort of get it out there and give it raw, which I think
one take Waddy, they say.
I like that, mate. I like that. So I mean, just fill everybody in roughly on sort of where you're at right now, and then I think the bit we can't ignore is obviously the surname that you carry, the sort of, you know, and I think stooped in the history of koi.
And I think where I am now, especially with the YouTube thing, and I think that's changed a lot of things, because I often get a lot of comments saying, "Were you related to it? Were you related to it?" Because I think from before the YouTube thing, everybody knew that's the connection was. But now they don't really know that connection. And I also think that the hobby's moved on.
We've had a new generation come through,
brand new generation of people that not only don't know, but don't care. They're not interested in that sort of stuff. Do you know what I mean? True. You know, we've still got the old school people within the hobby and stuff like that obviously do know. And I mean, you know, I'm still speaking to customers that I've known for 30 years, you know, they're still coming into the shop now and everything like that. But that was, with the YouTube thing, it's definitely sort of like it's part of like, what do they call it? Reinvented all over again. Yeah, completely. And people really don't know the connection or know what my history is in the industry. It's nice in a lot of ways. It's great. I don't care about it, you know what I mean?
It's not just living in a shadow, it's you and what you're doing now, which is pretty cool. I think
so. But I mean, you know, it's going back a long time ago now when my old man was active.
Yeah, so obviously tell Peter Waddington. So for those who know, but for those who don't, I would pretty much consider him the founding father, really, of koi outside of Japan.
Yeah, I think so. I think there was other companies that did bring in koi, but I think he sort of like, he didn't just bring them in, he sort of like
for me, growing up in it, someone from afar looked up to, admired what he was doing. It was sort of like guiding role model, if you like.
I think he was for a lot of people.
Phenomenal.
It's deserved as well. You know, I don't think it's you know, I think what he did for the industry isn't respected a lot. I would say. And that's probably because of his attitude towards the end.
I think I'll give you that. I'll be frank. I lost a lot of respect for him towards them sort of late years when the shop went, and he just went on the turn, and it just seemed to be a sort of a sellout to a lot of it. I'll be blunt about it, but I still can't deny what the guy did in the early years.
And like I said to you before, you know, I still reference his book a lot and stuff like that. You know, as respect for what he did in the industry, a lot of us wouldn't be doing it now. Especially like even when it comes to the pond building and the koi and the stuff, and I mean, it's funny because in Japan I still get called Peter a lot, and that's just the way they are, and that's just through a family thing, and I still get called that, and you know, that's quite funny when we speak, but not so much nowadays. But like even with the ponds and stuff, everybody's still building ponds from his spec that he first did.
So obviously, when did Infiltration was the shop name, if I remember right? When did that all start? When did you start in that journey?
We started at the end of the 70s, early 80s. I think it was 81 that Infiltration opened in Warrington. and then it went to 2008. But I mean, during that time, I mean, the company, I would say towards the end of the 80s, we supplied every koi dealer in the UK with fish and dry goods. I mean, it's one of this hobby is one of those things where you wouldn't say that the old times were better than the new times, but if people could see how that company and 2 containers a month from Japan, 3 shipments a week from Japan all year, and we brought fish in from other countries as well, and Thailand and stuff like that. I mean, our main job was to go down picking fish up from the airport. I mean, we had big, massive wagons and and stuff like loads of staff, and we'd go down to the airport with containers in the back of the truck. And we would come back empty because 20, 30 dealers met us at the airport and they just bought those fish straight out of the pot of the vats in the back, and that was it, and we'd come back empty. So we didn't have stock for the shop and stuff like that, and he's just buying more and more and more. So it was an incredible time, especially with all the dry goods and everything. We did our own foods, and it was just a bigger operation. And there's still not a company today that's anywhere near the size that was. I mean, I think at one stage it was 20,000 square feet, just a pond. Nice. So and the fish were, we just sell out and sell. That was all we did. And like I said, different. And now the market isn't as big as what it used to be back then, which is rare really for industries, because normally they take off. But I think we did have a big lapse in our industry.
The same market, ended it. The UK market more specifically, because I've even noticed from my time starting to now, it's a completely different beast.
Well, the other thing was as well with infiltration is that we were probably 70% of our business back then was in the States.
All right, really?
And then the first round of KHV came in, and then we weren't allowed to export anymore from the UK to the States, and we were doing that probably once a week. And like I said, I mean, I used to fly out with the fish and then take them to the customers and everything. That's what I spent. But then once that stopped, and we had to rely on the UK market, then that's when it all
game changer. Nice.
But you were looking at, you had to turn over at least 20 grand a month just to keep the doors open at that place. I mean, the gas, electric. I mean, God knows what it'd cost now. But it was massive. It was the biggest outside of Japan. So it was good. It really was great times. But things came to an end in about 2008, I think. That's when the recession just hit it, and that was it. We just couldn't sustain the business anymore, especially in the UK. And you couldn't do it now.
No. Do you think there was any part of the sort of big shift in the market as well? Because obviously infiltration was stooped in the sort of high end of things.
But it wasn't. I mean, a lot of people get that, but we sold fish for £10.
Really?
You know what I mean? So it was throughout the whole thing. But we did. I mean, but going back to the fact that when in the top pond, I mean, I don't know if any of the listeners will remember that pond, but we had fish in there just in general everyday sales for 20 grand. And they were sold in a heartbeat. People used to do bidding wars on them and stuff like that. There was never an issue selling those kind of money fish.
The days we don't get nowadays, isn't it?
I mean, one of the stories that when I was in, it was my first solo trip to Japan, so I was on my own with customers and everything like that. And you've been down to Matsunosuke in Isawa? So anyway, I was up in Niigata doing my thing, and I was there for about 8 weeks. And then on the about 3 days before I went home, I thought, I'm going to go down to Isawa. It's always beautiful weather down there. I'll go and see Matsunosuke and everything. I remember I had 4 million yen in cash, and so I told my dad, and my dad said, "Oh yeah, brilliant, yeah, that's fine, bring it back." So I said, "All right, no problem." So I just went down to Isawa, and we were having a coffee and everything and a tea, and he says, "How have you done?" I said, "Yeah, brilliant." I said, "It's been a brilliant trip, so I'm really happy." He said, "As long as you've got some money in your pocket." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I've got 4 million yen." And I said, "And that's it." So he said, he said, "Oh, no problem." So he said, "Let's go for a Chinese." So we went for a Chinese, and then he said, dropped me back at the hotel, and then we next morning came up, and he went, "Oh, I've got something to show you." So went and had a look, and there's these 2 kahakus. They were like 85 each, like that. And I just looked at him and I said, "I'm guessing they're about 4 million yen, are they?" And he says, "Yeah." So it's funny that, isn't it? I said, "Yeah." Like that. So I just thought, I went, "Oh, give him the money." And then I remember my dad picked me up from the airport at Manchester, and he said, "Where's that money?" And I went, "Oh yeah, about that." And he went nuts. He went absolutely nuts. And we brought them in, and they came in on the Friday, and they were both sold on Saturday morning.
Wow.
With it not even any, just so quick. They were the first 2 fish that sold that next day.
Wow.
So, it was just madness really going back then.
Remarkable.
But nothing's really changed in Japan, I don't think. It's a lot more commercial now.
Yeah, and again, obviously you go further back than me, but I've even seen that shift. There was a time where everybody had time for you, regardless. Obviously, spring season more than autumn, it's always been busier, but I see the commercialism.
Yeah, now making appointments all the time. And
yeah, completely. But likewise, they have to learn to deal with the amount that it's grown as well. Obviously, worldwide demand now is at unprecedented levels. Yeah,
and it is huge. I mean, that's one of the things that people always talk about. All the Europe and stuff like that. We're such a tiny part of the actual industry now. We're nothing on the. No. I was talking to some breeders this time, and I didn't know until last year that America is the biggest importer of Japanese fish.
Really?
Yeah, in the world. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe not the quality, but definitely the quantity. It's the biggest market, and they all want in on the American.
That's interesting.
On the American market, which is shown when we've been there with the American clients. It's sort of like, for the first time now for a long time, getting phone calls. Well, can you come round and can you come and have a look at our fish? Can you?
That is interesting. Like that. I knew them at one point that sort of hit that, but I think Asia's just been in people's face for so long now. But probably more on the high end. Vietnam in recent years, I'm getting sick of hearing that, to be honest with you. Just Taiwan. Buying up serious numbers of small stuff. Yeah. It's mental, but it just gives us a challenge, Tim, doesn't it?
Well, it does, and I mean, there's always, it's always the, if you're confident in your own ability to pick fish, then it doesn't really matter who's been there before you or what's going on. If you can still pick fish out of that system that you want, then
it's all right as long as there's actually something still there.
Well, yourself, it's one of the hardest things to do is to people always say that I'm pretty good at it. Is that you look into a pond of 1,000 fish and you can see maybe a box. And if there's not that one box in there, you're not going to bother it, because as soon as you start in there with a net, you start thinking, no, these aren't as good as what I was originally thinking, and it's a difficult job, and you've got to be patient, you've got to be good at what you do. I think and I do feel that, but I think most people that go to Japan and buy fish, I think they've got a decent.
Yeah. So one thing I'm curious to speak about, because I remember you used to feature quite heavily, or your dad or you, I can't remember exactly, in Nigel Caddick's Nishikigoi International magazine, which I've office next door. I've still got all piles of. It was superb. And I remember the early features of you guys and pond building, especially, just some absolutely breathtaking ponds. And then the first introduction to the Nexus and EA filter systems, which were massively controversial back then. I mean, Jesus Christ, I remember all the debates and all the rest of it, but they've stood the test of time.
And it still makes me laugh when people say they're big. Yeah, and if you remember back then, we were taking up to a third of the water space just for filters back then. These are still the.
So I'm more curious to know from the early days more what the feelings were around that time, because this was massive. We're going from talking settlement chambers, massive volumes of filtration being done to this footprint that most people said that'll never work, that'll never stick.
I think the first thing that they ever did was the answer.
That was it. That. Yeah, well, that was a bit beyond me.
That was before the Nexus came out, and then they kind of built the Nexus.
If I remember right, the answer was almost a miniature drum filter.
Exactly. It was the first drum filter.
Yeah.
And then what they did is that they designed the Nexus around the answer, but then the pumps on the answers were too high on the voltage on the electric. I think they were like 500 watts.
I remember
they were an Awaza 500 watt pump, and they were just costing a lot of money to. But they were great. They worked. They really did work. But you had to give the screens a good clean and stuff like that. But then they invented Nick and Jasper. That's when they started designing the Nexus. Yeah. And it's still, it's taken a long time, like anything, but I think it has stood the test of time, and like I said, we're still using them on the majority of our jobs.
Yeah. How big a thing was it back then when this thing came out? Because obviously
I don't think it was massive back then.
Really?
I don't think it was. I think it took a long time for them to
gain traction. Yeah.
Yeah, and also they have, now, we'll carry on talking about the past, but I think it took quite a long time but a lot of dealers got on board with it back in the day. You know, there was a lot of they were probably giving out free units to people to try and get it all, get the business going. But yeah, we started installing them. It was funny because it was sort of like he was getting paid off them to write for them and stuff like that. And then when they stopped paying him, he denied all knowledge of ever writing.
Well, about your dad,
yeah.
That was what I was going to mention, because obviously it was sort of, I was going to, what was his sort of true feelings behind it, because yours are clear to see. You've stuck with them, and that's off to you, because I think that's lacking in a lot of dealers these days, is that they don't have a clear vision on who they are as a dealer, what their beliefs are, and all the rest of it. It's like,
I only sell what I use.
Yeah.
So if I use it myself, I'll sell it, or I'll put it on some jobs, you know. Yeah. But you know, I think you know, back then it did take a while now, but I don't know, we'll talk about it later, but for me this industry is a very unprofessional industry.
In a lot of ways.
And I think it was more professional a while ago, you know, when you had all these massive dealers and stuff like that. But I think now it's a lot of small time dealers now, and there's certainly a lot more dealers back in the 80s and 90s than there is now. Koi dealers, not so much that they sell all the tropicals, marines, and anything like that, just specific koi dealers. But I think EA, what people don't realise about EA is how big they are. That is a huge beast, worldwide company now. I mean, you know, the containers of stuff that's going out there. I mean, what just us as a sort of like a mid-range dealer, in the last 2 years we've done 250 units.
Wow. Which
that's just one of, you know, when I've been getting phone calls from other dealers saying, "Oh, thanks Tim, that video you did the other day, someone just walked in and bought a Nexus system and stuff like that." So that's just me. And I mean, you know, but worldwide now, I mean, even in America now, that they're shipping 2 containers a month. They're 40 footers, you know, just full of Nexus beads.
And this is the bit, you know, when I do hear the stuff gets like, because they've always been there, aren't they, in your face, really. So that as much as positive stuff comes negative criticism.
Yeah, but they're outselling filters. Their nearest filter rival, they're outselling them, I would imagine, 50 to 1.
This is my point. You know, it comes, you know, drum filters, quantum market. Well, this is going to be end at Nexus. Why aren't they done their bit, integrated it and thing? And it's just no need.
There isn't because there's enough room for everybody to do what they want to do. But you know, the more filters you know, if you went online now, you'd probably find that Ford cars have got more complaints than Porsches because they sell more of that.
I think the interesting thing with Renault and why they've stuck behind that, the easy part, obviously the mechanical part, and now the Tempest, is that people out there generally aren't appreciating the huge part that biological filtration plays in mechanical filtration.
But they all use the same media.
Yeah.
So every company, even whether it's a Nexus drum or anything, they use
even your people, guys with your drums taking out whatever microns it is on them screens. The biological part is still the one stripping down to a micron.
Well, yeah, and also with them screens, when water hits it, you've lost your flow. You know what I mean? A lot of the flow, you know, I've got, you know, I thought we'd get onto this subject, but the drum, I've got no problem. We install drums; it's not a big deal. But sometimes you've got to think about the design of the pond. You know, it's great if you've got one filter, I'm still a massive believer on one drain, one filter. You know, I really am, and I think it's a very important thing. And you know, if you've got a pond, and say you've got 3 bottom drains, and then you've got your filter back there. You know, you've got one drain which is your closest going into the drum. That's going to take most of your water. Your second drain's not going to do much, and your third drain's obsolete because you ain't getting the flow.
To be fair, that's the first thing I picked up from one of your dad's books, and it's been a belief for me. And that's one of the biggest changes I've seen since drum filters. Really, is that all of a sudden you've got huge ponds with 4 drains feeding one drum. And I'm just like...
it's impossible because just by physics alone, water finds its easiest route. So, you know, your closest drain will take the brunt of that water through. You know, it's great if everybody could afford to have 4 drums, one on each drain, that's perfect.
This is the thing then, isn't it? So you look at that and think, well, that is the ideal system design. I'm completely with you on that. But then to do that and maintain that, you've got to have 1 drum per system, which is out of most people's reach.
And that's it, you see.
So people... then what is the compromise then? Well, there is no compromise. With Nexus, you could easily do that, because realistically, for the price of one of them big drums, you're going to put 4 Nexus on there and have that flexibility in your system. And
I mean, we put some beautiful ponds up on YouTube and stuff like that. You know, there's one that, you know, like a full glass pond, but some people have unlimited budgets. The budget isn't important, but that is so few and far between. All the other ponds that we do are for your working man. You know what I mean? They're saving up for bits. You know, we've got ponds now that haven't been fiberglass because they've not got the money yet to fiberglass it. We've got people that come in and buy a UV 1 week and then the month after they come and buy a pump and stuff like that. So I couldn't turn around to those guys and say, it's going to cost you 20 grand for that system. They'd walk
just
out.
For your drums.
You're
still going to need an extra something behind it to make the rest work.
You need a biochamber behind it. But they just walk out, you see. And people don't. You've got your old school, the snobby guys that I call them. You know what I mean? Who've got these ponds and I've got drums on this, but they're just not affordable to everybody. They're really not. And we 95% of our people who want ponds and stuff like that are just your average working,
it comes down the whole simplicity mantra for me. It's one I've been banging since I've started all this stuff, and you just don't get much simpler. I mean, I look at the need. So the need for most ponds and what they're doing, how they're keeping koi. We're not talking heavy feeding, we're not heavy feeding as I know it, raising fish intensively. We're talking maybe a few hundred grams a day.
I mean, I think I did a video the other day and that's got two nexuses on it, and I mean he's doing half a kilo a day now.
The cope, I'm talking. So like the Heeltsori pond I've just finished on, there was 350 fish in 3,500 gallons, over a kilo a day being belted in. This sheer amount of mechanical debris, I do believe only truly a drum filter can handle. But there, I'm bridging a gap closer to where drum filters came from in the aquaculture world. Where even my stocking level at that is embarrassing. Well, nothing compared to what them guys are using.
They use a lot in the sturgeon farms as well, don't they? I mean, when you look at them things, you can't see in the water. The water's just dirty and brown. But those drums, that's what they've got, huge drums bigger than this room. You know, and that's what they use to take the solids out. But like I said, I've got no problem. And if somebody wants me to put drums, I'll put drums in. But like I said, we do have our reservations on the application to put drums on.
Necessity, I think.
Well, just if it'll work, you know, if it'll work with that, like you're saying, you know, you're putting all them drains into one thing, it just doesn't make sense.
I can't ever agree with that.
Yeah, I can't. Like I say, it just doesn't make sense. But it's not that I've got anything, you know, nothing against it. We do ponds like just to finish one now in Portsmouth. It's got 2 drums on it, so it's not. You know, people always say, "Oh yeah, he's not mentioned Nexus for 5 minutes." Do you know what I mean? But it's at the end of the day, Ricky, is that I'm an Evolution Aqua master dealer.
You're selling what you believe in, though.
Yeah, but I'm their dealer. I'm not. You know, you don't go into Ford and ask them why they don't sell Vauxhalls. Do you know what I mean? It's just that's what we sell. We've got, you know, and that's all it is. So I will promote what I sell. It's nothing to do with friendships or. You know, everybody says, "Oh, he's getting loads of money off EA to do it." I wish I was. Do you know what I mean? But it's just sort of like, you know, that, you know, we just sell that's the product that we decided to sell.
Fair play. So I think one we're probably both quite keen to talk about, and I'm keen to again just drag that more historic part out of this because of the part you and your dad have played in it. Koi shows.
Oh yeah.
Koi shows.
I always say I've done my time on koi shows, and people always say, "You going to this show?" I said, "No, mate. It's just they're not for me anymore. They're not." They're not. I think when we go back from sort of like when Infiltration shut in the end of the 20s.
This is what I'm keen to know. So them koi shows, and am I right in saying your dad was instrumental in also setting the first shows?
But in it's sort of like 80s and 90s, those koi shows were absolutely vital to our business. We couldn't survive without the koi shows.
Was that from a sales perspective or a kudos perspective?
Sales and both, you know, especially, you know, he banged on about all the time, you know, 18 grand champions at the national and stuff like that. But like, I mean, there was a day for the national where you had to ring them to book your stand, and it didn't matter if you advertised with them, if you sponsored them, it didn't matter. Everybody had to ring that number in a 2-hour gap, and luckily we had 10 phone lines at Infiltration. You know, we had like 10 outgoing lines, and on that day, I mean, it was talked about for weeks and weeks in advance, running up to this day. It's the national day. We need everybody in the shop. Everybody has to be in the shop, and we're ringing, redial. Oh, I'm through. Right, can I book a stand? There was no special, you know, there was nothing. And if we hadn't have got the stand, it would have been a massive financial hit for us. But now there's no reason for me to do a show now, because when you're talking the monies back then, from we were going down there taking all the fish down on a Friday and everything like that, and we knew we were going to have to go back on Saturday to get more fish. You know, because they sold out. You're talking, you know, £50,000-60,000 in a weekend. You know, in sales and everything like that.
Yeah.
But now there's no reason. There's no. I'm trying to think of the word for it now. There's no.
It just doesn't make sense, does it?
No.
It's a lot of time cost.
They offer me nothing
as well. Yeah.
They offer me nothing to go to a show. Some dealers love them. Some dealers just like going to the shows. They like seeing the customers that they've not seen and stuff like that. But we can, instead of me closing the shop and going down to a koi show, hotels, trucks, everything like that, and I can make more money at the shop. So they don't offer me anything to go there. What's
gone wrong? Because this is the bit I see. You know, I'm all for, this is when I get on about shows. This is not me wanting to bash them or get anything. This is me wanting to see the UK and all this side return to the very best it can be.
Yeah.
Probably some of the times you've seen, which part of it is going to be, you know, times have changed, admittedly, but a lot of it can come down to effort. Work, everything put into it,
and I think we do have to realise that it is an amateur. It's an amateur setup, isn't it? You know what I mean? But you know, I was hearing, you know, I think when the Great British Koi Show was being talked about, and somebody said, "Oh yeah, but so and so's having a show near that time," and you're like, I don't, you know, when I was a kid in the summer holidays, I went to a different show every weekend. Every weekend I went to a different show.
Yeah, I can remember.
You know what I mean? There was that many shows going on in the UK. We went to all through my summer holidays. The 1 week at the Harewood House, 1 week at the East Pennine, 1 week down in Kent, 1 week, you know, wherever they were.
Just constantly.
And so I don't understand why. But I mean, I think they've even brought a ruling now that you're not allowed to show the same fish.
Really?
In a certain time frame. You know what I mean? And so that's stopping it. And but I mean, the biggest one for me is the BKKS because there just isn't one. You know, there really isn't. And you know, I think I've said to you before, you know, you put the national on or whatever, and you could have somebody living 5 minutes away from that event, and they wouldn't even know. Yeah, they wouldn't even know it was there. Yeah, you know, we're back in. You know, back we used to have the magazine.
Yeah, so give us obviously. Am I right in saying your dad was one of the founders of the
BKKS? Yeah.
So what was it back then? What did it mean to koi keeping back then?
It was massive. It was massive. I mean, we used to get the magazine through, and it was only an A5 magazine, but it had adverts, it had information. I mean, don't forget we didn't have the internet, did we? So you know, the magazines were few and far between back then. So this was your only outlet for the koi thing. I mean, and the numbers for the BKKS were huge. I mean, and not just in England, they had worldwide membership. You know, we used to have all the flyers at the shop. We had membership forms that people had to write and then send off in the post and stuff like that. We had all the posters and stuff like that. I mean, I've not spoke to the BKKS for I've spoke to the national side of it, but I've not spoke to the for what 15, 20 years. Because it's just not there.
How connected was the industry to the BKKS back then?
Massive.
Because this is for me coming into it. I think I've mentioned it somewhere before. The first national show I did. It was all of a sudden like it was a horrible feeling of it's them and it's us and it's them looking down their nose at us. And I remember that.
It was certainly a difficult relationship, but I remember talking to a koi judge at a national going back a long time ago, and we had a big argument, and because they were quite a common occurrence back in those days. You know what I mean? People losing the rags and everything. And he turned around to me on a night and he said, "If it wasn't for the BKKS, there'd be no koi dealers."
I've heard that before.
Right? And I said, "You're just talking rubbish, mate." I said, and we had a big row about it and all that. But now, when I think back, I think he was probably right.
Really?
What he said, because it was, because you're talking.
It was that big.
It was that big. Okay. And you're talking so many shows that was under the banner of the BKKS. You know, they had to supply all the insurance for the shows and everything like that. It was just a massive thing. And you know, like I was saying, you know, there must have been, I don't even know, there must have been 20, 30 shows a year in the UK back then. It was every week. Every week you could just look in that magazine and you say, oh, there's a show, there's a koi club there, they've got their news in there and everything like that. But like I said, now, whether it's they can't get people to bring
this was going to be my next question. So obviously, having known that, what do you think's missing and what possibly needs to be done? Because like, I'm not one just sat here dishing it out. I've already reached out to them. I'm
they need
here
to build
to
it.
help.
They need to build it. They need somebody there to build it back up. You know, and that's the thing. And the last, what is it? Probably the last 10 years, or they've only been thinking about the national show. So that's it. we're going to put the national on and then everybody's happy. But it's not that, because you need to build your membership back up again. If they built the membership back up again, then they'd never have any issues getting people to do these jobs that, you know, that they do. You know, when I mean, with a koi show, people always have an excuse when they want to, when it's closing down day and they don't want to be there. You know what I mean? You'll get that no matter how many people. But
it's a hobby 12 months a year, not just for one day,
and they need
or
to
2 days or whenever it is.
Something needs to happen where that they start offering for dealers and members something, anything.
For me, I think ultimately there needs to be support from the industry, but the industry needs to want to, because there's a feeling that it's mutual, for one, which is again an issue. I think there's been a digital revolution, absolutely needed. You know, we look at the impact your content has, everything we've been doing. It's genuinely changing people's and inspiring, building and growing confidence in people, which for me at the minute I don't see what they're doing to help that.
No, and like I say, now dealers have evolved into this new digital media and stuff like that, is that, you know, through websites. I mean, you know, 95% of everything I do now is on my phone.
Yeah.
Right, everything.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You know, I'll when I go to the shop, you know, I'll serve customers and stuff like that, but everything comes in from my phone, and that's it, from videos, from pictures or anything like that. That's it, all comes in, and then that's. But the shows haven't. I don't think it's the actual fault of the shows. I think it's the fault of not enough people wanting to be involved in that, in trying to build it back up again. You know what I mean? But nobody's even trying.
But then there's also instances where obviously our mutual sort of friend James and the show, obviously James was on here not so long back, the show he's getting involved in, I'm already obviously learning, since we offered our help to get involved and push it, some of the political bullshit he's got going on behind the scenes to get really simple shit done.
Yeah, but I think that's always been the same with any koi club, with any, even when the koi clubs were massive. I mean, back in the day, the Northern Koi Club was bigger than the BKKS.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was massive when we had the shows at Tatton Park and stuff like that. They were just huge shows. And I think like the East Pennine show was one of the biggest shows. It was bigger than the national.
Yeah, I always loved that one.
The East Pennine, it was massive. It was a lot bigger than the actual main national show, but it's politics have always stopped. But you know, and it's funny really, because even though you're giving exactly what they want, you sort of like saying, right, well, I've booked, all the dealers have booked, all the show vats are sold out. What's the issue?
Yeah.
You know, if you turn around and said, right, well, we've only half filled it, and we've only sold half the vats, then you can get people saying, well, you've done this wrong, or we need to change that. But he hasn't. Everything's just sold out. It's going to be a massive event. But I think some people just want to go against it because they didn't think about it.
And I've just, from speaking to him, it seems that he's had some resistance. He's been trying to make moves to better things. I've genuinely connected with him because I feel his desire to want to make an impact and enhance things, and just the resistance and he's met is quite.
But I think that's pretty much across the board in everything. When you're dealing with the old school people who refuse change and they refuse to go with the new ways of doing it. You know, you're talking about YouTube. I mean, you know, I've said in the past, you know, why don't the BKKS do a YouTube channel? And then their members can send in little clips of their ponds, and you know, members' ponds, and everybody would watch it. You know what I mean?
You make it sound too simple.
I know, but you know, they don't have to do any work because the customer, the member does all the work, and they send it, you know, and that's it. You know, and I just, you know, they're not, you know, they've got that Facebook page which is posted in once every now and again, but there's no other way of they're not promoting it any other way. You know what I mean? And I like I said, but this is the thing, you see, 'cause it makes no difference to me. You know, so if they come back and say, "Oh, this is wrong," that's right. It really makes no difference to me whatsoever what they say, because they offer me nothing. As a dealer, they absolutely offer me nothing to go and support what they're doing now. You see, so that's what I find. And if they did change that, then I'd support them all day long.
So this is going to be on to my next bit, because I know obviously full well, and probably you know, there's going to be groups that are going to find this a great topic of conversation and get their bats out again, which. Fair play. It is a discussion, it's a debate, but I'm just going to reiterate, even since the last time, personally, I'm here with what resources I've got at my disposal to help and try and make a difference. It's a genuine feeling, and you've pretty much just said the same. But somebody's got to come forward and not just, you know, give us a load of words, actually some action and take us up on it.
That's it.
It's easy.
I think at the moment, the only thing that you see at the moment is that so-and-so stepped down, so-and-so's going to come into it as a temporary thing, then we're having an AGM, and that's just year after year. That's every year, you know what I mean? There's no, you know, I mean, but even when you know, I think, you know, with the show and the BKKS, you know, you've got the show, you've got the BKKS, you've got the JSC, I don't think any of them particularly like each other. You know, in the three of them, you know what I mean, and they were always arguing in-house and stuff like that. So, but you know, until they get all the ducks in a row, and it's going to need somebody to come in and put that in, and I just can't see that person.
Other than that, the ultimate end game, if they can't get the shit in order, it's going to be something at some point. It's going to have to come and replace it.
Of course,
that's the harsh reality.
On the continent, and you know, they bring in the judges from Japan and everything like that, and it would be much better. I think it'd be a much better. A thing, you know, especially when you're bringing in these judges that, you know, I mean, whether it's right or wrong, but some of these judges over here, they don't even keep fish. You know what I mean? They don't even have ponds. Do you know what I mean? But they're still because they've been doing it for a long time, it doesn't matter. And but they don't see the change in Japan. They don't see the quality changes. They don't see the, you know.
It's having your ear to the ground, isn't it? This is obviously where me and you differ to them guys. The amount of time spent there knowing what's going off, understanding new varieties coming through, what's happening with them,
bloodlines, you know, new body shapes, new. You know, you've got to be up on it, especially when you're selling fish at a high value. You've got to know what you're talking about. You know, you can't just say, "Oh yeah, it's got red on it." Because it's nice, just buy it. You've got to know what's going on with that fish, and you know, so you have to follow the trends. You know what I mean? Like I was in Japan last time, and I spent about 3 hours because somebody had brought in a new male, and I'm not into the breeding side of fish. It's never something that's interested me, but it was quite nice listening to him onto why he's bought that and how that's going to change his lines and stuff like that. It's not just a simple case of us going to Japan, selling fish, and then coming back. You've got to, I mean, it's still one of the very few places where I go where you go there for a few days and then you just realise you don't know that much, you know, compared to these guys when they're doing these fish. I mean, you know, even the times where I've seen fish go in the mud pond and then they come out in and you just think, how did that happen? I've no idea. How did that happen? You know what I mean? That fish looked absolutely horrible when it went in that pond. I look at it now.
Certainly with the mud pond stuff as well, from what I'd experienced of it in my time there, it's raising fish in concrete ponds to there. It's just so much guesswork where only experience can get you through in them mud ponds.
Well, it was funny. I saw, I can't remember who it was now. Somebody put some fish on, some kahakus on Facebook the other day, and he said people say about pattern. Right, he says, but these are not the best pattern fish, but they're the best quality fish. And he said, like, he made it clear that the actual show standard, the first thing that they look at is pattern, right? Which is right, you know, in some things. But these fish that he put on were beautiful. That, you know, even though they didn't have the nicest patterns in the world, but the quality of the fish, you could see the shape of the fish and everything like that. But that's. So when you go to the show and you put these fantastic fish in front of these judges, they've got a checklist. They're not looking at the quality or anything like that. They're going, right, has it got red on its shoulder? Has it got black on its shoulder?
That's the bit. There's so
they're
much
not looking
emotion
at the quality.
Stripped away from it, and it's. I've said it time and time again. You can't learn to judge koi from a textbook.
No, but the problem is their textbook's still the 1970s manual to Nishikigoi. Do you know what I mean? And that's, you know, you can't. And you know, these people have got these amazing koi, but they're not getting appreciated. No.
Well, you've done. I believe you've done judging at Nagok show a few times and bits and bobs, and the speed at which it's right. This. Which one? Yeah. Right. Cool. On next one.
I've been invited to the All Japan show as well.
Just incredible.
But it's just because it's a ballot at the All Japan show. I mean, the worst thing is getting that size. You're going to be there for days trying to do you know what I mean? I'm not. I'll do it if they let me do the big fish and that's it. You know what I mean? You're only there for an hour, but yeah. I mean, with the judging over there, I mean, there's flaws in the Japanese judging. You know, they're very much on size. You know, they're very much on. You know, if you've got a fish, it could have one fin, but if it's at that 75 cm maximum thing, it's winning. So, you know, with the All Japan show, but the good thing about the Japanese shows is that no matter which way you look at it, the right fish always wins, especially for Grand Champion.
And this bit, so the All England Junior Koi show just got. I weren't there, but I've seen obviously quite a lot of pictures of fish that won, fish that didn't win, and I think it's when it comes down to some of these big decisions that can be a bit controversial. In my opinion, I'm open to be corrected on this. Grand Champion Award, yes, there has to be an element of size, because that's just where Koi's got to these days. But
was there a maximum size? I've not seen
that one. I'm not sure what it is, but either way, there was a Ginnerin Goshki which was not far off the higher end of the size divisions. Absolute all Japan standard fish. I could see it from even the shitty picture I looked at. Absolutely superb. Far better than the fish that actually won Grand Champion.
But it was Goshki.
Exactly.
So it's not going to win.
And if you remember back, they did this at the IJKS when the Aoki Beniki Kikuru won GC. Why not? That was an absolutely worldy of a fish that when you actually take aside for what it is, wow, that is just top draw. Once in an every 10-20 year fish.
Yeah, I mean, I am a big believer
bold decision.
I'm a big believer in that you've got to appreciate an individual variety, and I think when you go into some of these breeders and you can see anything. You can see a Chagoi, right? Even though they're the same, there's a big massive difference between a general Chagoi and a real high end Chagoi, and you can see it when you look at it. You know what I mean? And you can get some Chagois will just blow you away. When you look at them in the thing. But I am still. I think maybe it's age and stuff like that. But I am still a Go Sankey one. Yeah, to win the Grand Champion Awards. I do, because I still think that they're probably one of the most hardest fish to get to that size and stay good.
See, I disagree on that one, Tim. I do. I just think there's so many of them these days.
There is.
Sakai, they've got a revolving conveyor belt of fish that could probably slip in and win it.
Yeah.
But I like in that case, that Kikakuro, every year at that IJKS there's going to be a Kawaku Sankey or Showa capable of winning.
Yeah.
But Benny Kikakuro is such a standard, remarkable. And just for me, I think it should be on the quality of the fish. Yeah. In Japan, there's always the Go Sankey outranks everything because there's so much that's so good. But I think,
but there's different ways of doing it. Isn't there must be different ways of doing it. I mean, like at the All Japan Koi show. I mean, a lot of the people who show fish there, they want to win Jumbo Champion rather than Grand Champion. They still think that the Jumbo Champion Award's a better, more prestigious award than the Grand Champion. But over there, that they do showcase those individual varieties. They don't just sort of like move them back into Kawari or whatever, and then that's it.
The other divisions set up, haven't we, to celebrate them more and give them that fair chance.
That's something that going back to the old days in the BK Kids, when we had a dealers section, you know what I mean? Now, those fish, the fish that you're talking about, like these Kamonryus and these absolutely beautiful fish, they'd be fish that we'd want to put in a dealers section because they'd sell like that. Yeah. But now they don't do that anymore. When you go back to the national, they have hundreds of apps.
That's another interesting one, because obviously we've spoken enough about that side of things. There's the dealer side to all this as well. And I'd be very curious to see if that option became available, how many would actually put the effort in and take it up, because this is working both ways.
There's nothing. They're not giving us anything to go and do.
But if there's a chance to showcase your fish, compete, all the rest, I'd be very curious to see who would actually get involved.
That used to be more competitive than the actual than the private Grand Champion.
I can imagine it being a bloodbath.
Yeah, it was. It was amazing. It was, some of the judges were getting run out of the shows. I mean, literally they were getting chased out of the shows. I've seen it a few times. But that was just as competitive as the main. People went to see that just as much as they went to see the other.
Back then, that particular show, I can't remember which it was, we'd entered quite a few fish. It was nice. Obviously, the thought being, I think this is where it differs, and I'm not sure this is something anybody can fix. Shows for me in Japan are so important because they can take a breeder from nothing to something with one major win. That's the impact that they still carry on a sort of global scale. We see it when Kano started dominating with his Goshki. All of a sudden, been buying off Kano for years. He wins some big awards, gets in winner retake. You can't get near him anymore.
That's it.
That has a huge impact for their business.
Did the same. That was the same with Issa. Yeah. Same with a lot of the breeders that over there. Once they see that, once they get those accreditations, and then their business gets built up, then the fish are out of the.
I do see it on a small level over here, but I'd like to see that impact where dealers, and I think that's possibly. I mean, you see Narita alone. I mentioned him quite a lot. He's absolutely. If you took shows away, his business and probably his reputation would be a fraction of what it is. But he gets the kudos. People know it's the handled by, all the rest of it. The accreditation that he gets fuels that machine for him.
And I think there's other political things in play as well. Sort of like if I had a customer now ring me up and say I want to win the All Japan Koi show, I'd have no choice but to go through Narita.
Yeah.
Because I don't think any other fish.
No, it'd be a struggle.
Yeah.
But the bit I'm getting at is, obviously out there as well, it's no issue that, let's face it, what hobbyist actually takes their own fish to a show in Japan.
No.
Whereas over here, you turn up with your customer's fish on your van, there's going to be an absolute shitstorm, and everybody listening knows it, nobody can deny it. It's against the rules, so to speak. All the rest.
I knew that, did it, is it?
I don't know. I'm led to believe it. I know it's heavily frowned upon. Obviously, fish coming direct from a dealer's, i.e.
Right, sorry. Not in their own pond.
Stuff like that.
Oh, right.
Whereas,
no, I don't.
Is it about? For me, it's about competing. It's, you know, if you've got the resources to buy a best fish and leave it at dealers, fair play to you. Somewhere in life, you've done something to win to get yourself in that position. It's all the competition for me, and I just think I'm seeing new hobbyists. I've got private guys who I still know from when I worked at my dad's shop who have got incredible collections of fish. This is something we spoke about. I know you have got customers with collections of fish that should be on showgrounds.
They just won't do it.
They won't do it for whatever reason it is, and I think this is the core we've really got to get to and try and address, because we want the level, in my opinion, to be as competitive as possible, and then whatever that is. For some of these guys, they've got super valuable fish, but they don't know how to catch, bag, prepare, all the rest of it.
Yeah.
You know, and
we do
no doubt I've seen, probably you would have no qualms in getting stuck in, handling all that, sorting it, taking that risk element away for them guys, getting them fish to that showground.
But on the other side, you won't get you won't grow the industry unless you also service those people, the first time show people.
Yeah.
But the people that have been buying £50 koi, let's say £20 koi, but they want to go and experience a show. But that's frowned upon now, you see, because the people who walk around the back and go, why did he bring them? But he has to bring them because he has to learn. Yeah. That's the best way to learn. When he looks at he's got a Sankey there, and then he sees the one that won, he goes, I can see now why that one won. Yeah. So I'm going to up my game now. Next year I'm going to buy a better Sankey. I'm going to buy a better, and then that's what helps.
Just an educational. Them guys need the confidence as well to learn how to pack, move, prepare, all the rest of it. So it's all there. I think it just needs pulling together, and I think it'll serve the country and the industry well.
And I just don't see anybody wanting to do it, because, like you say, with the other shows, is that as soon as somebody comes in and wants to do something, they hit a brick wall, and then that's it. Then the other people that have been there behind the scenes go, no, we're not doing that. We're happy with what we're doing. Yeah. We're going to put the national on. That's it. We're not really interested in it. As long as we can do that, everything else can go. You know what I mean? We'll have one nice weekend a year, and then that's it. But then you've got the other 51 weekends a year that nothing's been done, and that's the thing. You know what I mean?
It's interesting, but I'm just going to reiterate again before everyone goes wild. I'm literally, you know, the Koi Talk team's here. My resources at Koi Wholesale. So Tim's already said it. You know, we want to help. We want to get involved, but it's got to work for everybody.
Well, we're businesses at the end of the day, Ricky, and you know, something has to be. You know, it's all very well I'm saying, "Oh, well, can you just give us some money?" You know what I mean?
That's
I'm not pretty
much
much
what
money.
It's felt like for a long time.
Yeah, of course it has, and you just like saying, "Well, no, I need something."
Yeah.
You need to offer us something before we start. You know, if you come to me with an offer and say, this is what we're going to do for you, and this is what we're going to do for the rest of the dealers, this is what we're going to do for the hobbyists, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, that's they're going to grow. You know, someone at last is going to grow this.
There we go.
Then you're going to jump on board and go, let's do it. Like, you know, let's get all. You know, we'll put it in. But until then, I just don't see how it's going to change, because as long as they've got that one weekend a year to have their show.
We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Well, we'll see, mate. We will see. So,
another bit. So, something you've done in recent years, to be fair, which I've sort of took my ass off to, fair play again, the whole Koi Trips venture. Yeah. So, obviously, Japan it's the Mecca. It's the place I feel super at home the minute you get there. For any koi nut, it's a must. But trips aren't necessarily easy. There's not really been a commercialised trip. I think it's more a case in the past where it's dealers sort of like, I'll take you. Some necessarily, sometimes maybe not wanting to, but doing it anyway to try and retain a customer or whatever it is, and you've sort of tipped all that on its head. And from what I've seen from the outside in, it's like, come along. If you buy, you buy. If you don't, you don't. Here's the experience.
I'm there anyway.
And you put a good show on for them.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we take customers from the UK and America mainly. And we, you know, if everything goes back to normal this year, I mean, there's at least 40 people wanting to go to Japan, which then starts to get a little bit, you know. So we have like the main harvest.
Gonna let me know what week you're going, so I could book a different one.
There'll be a few weeks, mate. But sort of like we have a lot of customers that have fish in Japan.
Yeah.
Growing, so they want to be there to see those fish come out of the mud ponds, and they also want to get involved and bring their fish out the mud ponds. But it's very difficult for us to try and, because everybody wants to go and see that.
Pull it all
even
together.
Even if they've not got fish in there, that's when everybody wants to go. Because unfortunately in Japan, your main harvests are in a very small. From all the breeders, they all do them. They all want to get them out there for the shows and everything.
Yeah.
So
it's work for them, isn't it? I think that's the thing again. It's work, and it's not actually as exciting as it is for us, to be honest with you.
No, I mean, I'm not a great. Like I say, I've done so many harvests over the years. It doesn't really, doesn't really bother me anymore to go and actually pull the pond. But the customers love doing it, and you know, when you've got breeders like Shincho and stuff like that, they'll allow them in the ponds, and maybe not on the big harvest. They're not allowed, but you know what I mean. But they'll always put ponds to one side, and he'll say, right, come on guys.
No, it's good of him for that, because I know it's a lot of breeders are completely closed off with it, aren't they?
Yeah, and I don't know why, to be honest with you. I mean, you know, I've been to a lot of different harvests, but you know, a lot of people don't like taking people, but some of them are geared up for it. People like Matsunoski and stuff like that. I mean, you've got like food on there, they've got drinks. And
it is when you actually when you can get your head into the facts or something like that. It's a spectacle, isn't it? It really is a show. Yeah,
but some of the breeders embrace it, and like, I mean, like Shintrov, one who I'm close with. He, like, even when I said to him, look, I'm going to bring a couple of YouTubers over, the big, you know, I think one of them's got like 4 million subscribers, whatever, you know, big things. And he's sort of like, because that's how it's going to go. That's how it's all going to go. And I think some people embrace the Western and understand it a little bit more than a lot of the breeders do. A lot of the breeders are still very much closed off from it. You know, you go to a lot of breeders with some customers, even though those customers are spending money, but they'll only talk direct to me. They won't really acknowledge anybody else who's there. Do you know what I mean? If somebody will go up to them and go, that one then, you just sort of look at me.
It's the way it's been for years, though, isn't it?
You know, and that's it. But some breeders are very, very on the ball, especially knowing the social media side of it, and the knowing what's going to happen in the future.
There is quite a big generation, new crop of a younger generation through now, though, as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
We look at a lot of them. Izumir, Marasaka, Oya, a lot of them boys.
And over there as well, really. Though, Ricky, they take it they take it very seriously. I mean, when I was there this time, I mean, Kensuke, which is the young son at Shintro, he went to at least 4 young koi breeders meetings when they were there. And then they had to go and clean, like they've got a pond in Nagoka. So they had to go and clean that out. They had to go and replace the fish, put new fish in, and they get really big involved in that young breeder. So they're always producing, and they're also teaching them, and like they're teaching them about shipping abroad. You know, they have these talks and stuff like that. You know, this is how we've got customers from Thailand, Taiwan, and this is how we deal with it. This is how we do it. And then, you know, you'll find some of the breeders from Niigata will go down to Hiroshima, and maybe vice versa, to see how that operation works. And
I've known a lot of them down in Hiroshima, training up on some skills.
Yeah, I mean, we've sent some breeders' sons over to America, to Brian's farm out there, because he's got the big farm there, and then and then they've studied, well, not studied, but seen how it works abroad, and then we can, so say when we're shipping over there, and then we can say, well, yeah, but do you remember when this happened on the ship? When bringing it, well, make sure that doesn't happen. So they can put into, you know, it's really good when they do that, but they're really good on bringing and teaching the young breeders up. I mean, this is probably the breeders that are coming up now are the generation that I don't know so well, but the sons now that are running the company, I was the same age as me. So when I was there as a kid, then I used to know them, and you know, we used to go to the arcades at night and stuff like that.
Advantage slipping in now.
So like some of them, I've been close with over the years. But again, there's closeness and relationships are only as good as how much you're spending. Yeah,
that's the bit. There's very few. I think we all have them, and I mean, this is probably going to tie into the next bit. So obviously, it's very, you know, you're heavily tied up with Shintaro. We can all see that. Fair play, but I think this is the bit people don't get. A lot of the relationships in Japan are, say, based on as good as what you're spending at any 1 minute in time. But we all do seem to get the one over the years. I've got a very close affiliation with the guys at NND. Always have been. Fujo's like my, Japanese father.
Fujo
in a
used to
lot
ship
of
our
ways.
fish for us back in the day.
I'm aware.
Yeah.
But obviously then you've formed quite a bond with Shintaro, which I believe led back to your dad pretty much was the one that put him on the map in a lot of ways.
That came around. I mean, I don't know if you will go back a little bit, but Peter used to buy, I'd say 90% of all our fish from the auctions.
Okay.
Right, so you had the Nokio, Miyako, and everything like that. So we used to do 3 auctions a week, right? But then when you buy fish from the auctions, you don't have anywhere to put them. You see, so you can't just whack them straight on an aeroplane and go. So he went, because Shintaro was staff at Matsunosuke, he did his time at Matsunosuke, and then when he finished at Matsunosuke, he got the parent stock and to start his own business. But then he had outside his house, so as you know, he's got some outside. He's got 3 big outside ponds. He used them for breeding as well. So when my dad got involved with Saito, is that it was sort of like, I'm going to put all these fish from the auction, you come down, pick them all up, put them in there, and then we're going to ship them from these ponds, you see. So that's why, when they came back in like 2 or 3 times a week, all we had was a Polaroid picture with a price on the back, right? That was it, right, in the bottom of all the boxes. So we emptied all these fish into these oxygen containers we had, and then we put then all the dealers are looking in the vats to this one, and you're trying to looking through all these pictures to go, that's it. There it is. That's how much it is. Yeah, I'll have that. And that's all we ever did. And that for a good 10 years, the fish all came from auction. Yeah, all of them. But don't forget, I'm not talking. Some of the there was one auction a month at Miyako, which was a million yen minimum. So what's that today? $7,000.
Yeah.
So that was the minimum bid. So I mean. They still say there's more All Japan champions come from the auctions than any other breeder. So these fish were fantastic fish, and he just used to sit there, and no one else had. If he turned up, there was nobody else having a chance really, because the exchange rate was so good. So they were so cheap to buy. Crazy. The shipping was great because of the exchange rate.
Yeah, don't get me started on shipping.
I know. Oh no, mate, don't. I just have my bill. It's not nice. It's not that. But like I said, it's one of those things. Is that with Japan. You wouldn't do it. If I couldn't go to Japan, I wouldn't do this job. I'd go and find something else.
I've said that of Israeli fish. Yeah. If it was a case that I had to sell Israelis, I'd jack it up.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with them, but it's just my personal. I'd be a richer man if I sold Israeli fish.
It's what's rooted in it for me as well.
Exactly.
It's the place.
So it is the place for me, and that's why I wouldn't do anything else, even though I've got no problem with them fish. I count Israeli fish as a massive stepping stone into Japanese.
There's a lot of countries doing a great job, but it's just that they can't. There's just something unique about the place. I think Japan in general, koi bit aside, it's anybody who's not visited. It's so far removed from the Western world in so many ways. I always say to my wife, my missus, I always say if it's like say a week before the trip, I start getting butterflies, and I've been over 70 times. You know what I mean? But I still to this day start getting butterflies, and then when I'm leaving, I'm like. And then I come back, and within a few days I want to go back. Yeah. So, and it's just, once you start, when you turn up that road off Route 17 and you just start going up the mountains, it's just sort of like you just feel happy, and it's just a great time, even though it does get busy when you're there. I mean, that's another thing that people just think you're going on holiday. You know what I mean? I really wish it was an holiday. Yeah. You know what I mean? You come back so... Oh, I know. Yeah, that's the bit people don't get.
Yeah,
it's exhausting.
We're out all day doing that, and then people wake up at sort of like 4 o'clock in the morning from the UK, and then you're on your phone all night.
Especially when this is the bit when you're with customers. Now, this is no slight on them because it's a part of what we choose to do, but obviously you are dependent on you for that whole period they're there while they're awake. Yeah. They're dependent on you to get them around, make sure they're fed, watered, all the rest of it. So in between doing that all day at koi farms, entertaining in the evening as well, at some point you've got all you guys at home who want a piece and want to know what's going off. You shut off for a few hours sleep, get up and get back on it again for
as soon as your phone goes
1, 2, 3 weeks, whatever it is.
I still believe it's one of those things that it's like you make hay while the sun shines, because you can't just pop back and do it. So you've got that one time.
Take away how exhausting it is.
No, it is. It really. I mean, I did it about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, about a week before I came home, I just shut down. I shut everything down. I shut my computer, I shut my phone. Nobody could get hold of me. Missus couldn't get hold of me. Nobody could get hold of me. And I went into Tokyo, and I couldn't. I was honestly, I was getting poorly with it.
Yeah.
It was that bad out there that time. I mean, I go when we stay at the New Otani, and it's got a little bar downstairs. And so what we get back sort of like round about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, between 4 and 5. And then I say to the customers, I said, look, you've got a Nagaoka City here, you've got a full range of restaurants, you can go and do what you want, there's bars, there's pubs and everything.
It's easy to get around, isn't it?
Dead easy, it's a block system, like in, you know, you're
more,
going to get
more
lost.
English than we've ever known before as well.
You get McDonald's if you want, you get KFC, you can get Chinese, Italian, whatever you want to go and eat. And then that little bar opens at 6 o'clock. Now everybody thinks I go there because I'm on the air, but they've got the best internet, right? So they've got a separate internet connection there, because once you get in the hotel and everybody's in there, the internet just goes.
When they changed to wireless in that hotel, it just went.
It's still a nightmare now. It's a nightmare now, and this time the bar weren't open because of the COVID thing. So they've temporarily. So what I do is it opens at 6 o'clock, and I'm sort of like I come out of my room. And I'm like looking to make sure nobody's there, and then I get in the lift and I go shoot straight down into the bar. I'm sort of like running into the bar like that, and I go in there, and then I get the computer up, have a beer like that, and then start doing the blog or whatever, and sending pictures to customers because I've got the good Wi-Fi. And then 6:05. Oh, hiya Tim. And then everybody comes in then, you know, and you're like, oh guys, so we weren't going out till 7:30, you know what I mean? And he's sort of like, so I wanted that hour and a half just to do my own.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah,
it's tough.
Yeah, because that's why sometimes you see a daily blog from me, but some days you just can't do it. So, but I think that, but you're going back to, with the Japan thing, you're going back to the UK market for koi, right? Is that in going back to the days of infiltration where you had fish at 20 grand, which you could sell all day long, but just somebody that you don't even know might just walk off the street, spend 5 or 10 grand on a fish. That was a daily occurrence. Now you've got to have a limit on the fish that you sell at your shop. Because you can't afford to bring in these thousands of pounds worth of fish.
It's true. There's a massive
there's
cap
not,
there.
you know, not. And also you might have 2 fish at that value, you see, so you've got a choice of 2, right? So somebody comes in and the chances are they're not going to like that, they're not the fish for them. So then you've got to offer, you've got to offer, for me anyway, I've got to offer that Japan side of it, or my customers that are moving up the ladder and want better fish, then they might go looking elsewhere. You see, so I've got to offer that service for them to come and because they want to get up the next level, you know what I mean? And then if they're not going to do it through me, they'll do it through someone else, you see. So that's why, you know, we do sell some expensive fish in Japan, but over here you've got to look at the market, and the market is still telling me that expensive fish are not.
These people think, you know, expensive fish dealers are making a fortune. I think some dealers are to blame on this, and it still pisses me off when I see it, because you've got, you know, certain ones marking fish up at stupid rates, and then these 50% sales that are on and all the rest of it.
Tatigoi.
Oh, don't, let's not start on that one too. For fuck's sake. That's not how it is really. Not with that high-end koi game.
No.
The only winners in that I see these days are the breeders. Because they've got big demand for it still. They can quote these stupid figures, especially when you move up the levels as well. You get into Dainichis, Sakai's, all the rest of it. They can quote telephone numbers, and somebody is going to go, yep.
Yeah, of course.
They know it.
But the other thing as well is that like I always say to people is that it's all very good for my social media saying that I've sold a fish at 85 cm or something like that, right? But I want to sell fish that big to that big every day, right? My margins are better on those fish than they are on those.
That's what I get. So it's the people understanding the risk of investing. There's no special deal for us on the table, because they know if we say no, matey from China behind us is going to say and probably for a bigger sum of money most of the time, because breeders will play it to the people. I've seen that plenty of times. So it's understanding that the risk for us to outlay, you know, buying Nisai at $1 million yen each, to have sticking around it to very quickly you burn through 20-30 grand to put a small selection on that's swimming around for someone to come basically pull to pieces, do nothing. The one minute one of them gets a split fin or knocks itself up, which is quite easily done, you're just hemorrhaging cash, and before you know it, you're in ground. In November, we sold, let's say,
total 5 pieces, right? 4 Nisai and 1 big Kahaku from Dainichi, right? And there was 4 Nisai and then the others. And you're talking in the realms of $300,000, right? And then you turn around to them and say, yeah, we're having them. Is there any chance? No.
Yeah.
No, what? We're taking all 5, mate. You know, sure you can do something. No.
I still never forget.
You mean no?
The first time I was with a high-end client at Denichi, and they'd lined it up. I said, "Look, he's really looking for something here." And I said, "Right, yeah, some 3-year-old-ish. He wants it proper grow, all the Denichi characteristics." Yeah, no problem. We should go at Fish House and put this quite. And at that moment, you know, when the sock comes away, and it's like, whoa. He's looking, customer's gone straight away. I'm like, right, okay, how much is that to go? And literally just looked me straight in the eye, not even blink. Yes, 7 million.
Yeah.
Fucking what?
Yeah. It's just like I say, it's impossible. But then when you go back to like now, especially when everybody goes back to Japan and everything like that beforehand, now you've got the social media, so you've got the Facebook thing, right? So and there might be 10 people looking at that same fish that you've just looked at, right? And then you're saying it's 7 million. Right.
Yeah.
So, but then 10 people who've looked at that fish, they also know the price. You see. So then somebody will put on it 10 million.
Yeah.
And then somebody, hang on a minute, it was only 7. Right. So the days of being able to make money on them fish is impossible. It's impossible now. So you've got to put your commission on. Yeah. Right. And then that's it. You can't do any more because there's so many people now know the value of that fish, and that's not just at Dainichi. That's everywhere. You know, even like Shintaro, like Yamamatsu, everything like their best fish, their best Nisai. 50 people have seen it. 50 people know the price. So you can't start putting that up on the media inflated price. So that's what I'm saying is that the high end fish now. You're making very little.
The winners are the breeders.
Of course,
that's it. And even still in that chain, you know, for us to use our own cash, there's not the return on it.
No.
And not outweighing the risk of something going wrong in that process.
It's a massive risk. It's a massive risk, especially now with the freights and the shipping. I mean, you know, with a lot of the direct flights now, they're not doing livestock, so they're either going through Dubai or they're going through Anchorage.
Wild.
Your time on the shipments now has gone up 10 hours. You know, and they already come in looking rough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you know, so your quarantine's going to be harder and stuff like that. You know, I told a lot of people this time, I said I'm not bringing any. You know, I've got customers there. You know, we've got 80 cm fish and stuff like that. For one, it's the wrong time of year, but for two, I'm not going to risk those fish, putting them in that box, and then because, as you know. It's only you won't lose your worst fish. No, you'll only lose your best.
No, it's weird how that always pays out that way. Isn't it?
So it's just not worth doing. So you know there is a bit of worrying times for the shipment next week.
Yeah. So I think just to probably end on one bit, I just want to tie back into just for an educational side for everyone watching or listening as well. Shintaro, a bit of a breeder insight here to some degree. What I know of him, obviously you've been a lot more connected. I've never really done business with him, but just through learning about koi. Quite a big part of it because he was an underling of Matsunosuke, which
still uses Matsunosuke parents for his
this is one thing I sort of love because I look staring at S Legend behind you and you just look at that body and it's like holy shit, but it's not forgetting Matsunosuke. Back in them days, it was the first bloodline.
70% of all Sankey still use Matsunosuke.
And it was the first one to produce a Go Sankey over a meter. It has, however, obviously the Magoi blood that Tosho introduced was a revolution, but there is still that one sort of trait that's C strong. And me personally, I like to see some of these. It's the bit I love about Japan. There's still the amount of breeders. It's the diversity and the lineages and the characteristics. Because I will liken it to people, and the bit I'm getting to here is. Quite openly, a lot of people sort of slag the Shintaro body off. And what I'm tying into here is that the thing I love is the diversity that's out there, depending on what you're actually looking for. And from what I've seen of it, the Matsunosuke body, I mean, the size them fish get is phenomenal, isn't it? Shintaro's knocking big 90 plus centimetre Go Sankey out of the park on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah.
And back in the day, what he was doing was a revolution. It's just that now, other things have come along, Sakai's, Momotero's, they're doing it and doing it in a different way. Yes, they've got Sakai's body is the biggest selling point of that line, but none of it's bad. And that's just the point I'm getting at. You know, the quality of Shintaro fishes, I've seen it, is phenomenal. The guy's mindset, I don't know if it's changed, but over sort of longevity, the old school way when hobbyists were looking at a fish that would peak when it was 10, 12, 13 years old, and knowing then that quality was going to be maintained for this huge amount of time after, whereas you've got this short-term world now, which is just the world in general, where they're expecting it to be Grand Champion ready to compete at 5-6 years old. Completely different.
And then you never see him again.
That bit is true.
You never see them again. You know, they'll do that. But you know, the reason why Matsunosuke fish are really good for me is because it works pretty much the other way around. I mean, you get some tozai now that at this size they're like blood red. You know what I mean? And they're the best selling fish that you can get, and dealers will buy them all day long, and they'll knock them out. People will go in and go, "Ooh, they're nice." Yeah. But then when they get to that size, they start to lose it, and they go downhill. And it's totally opposite with the Matsunosuke fish, is that they look insipid and horrible when they're this sort of size, but then they go bigger and bigger. You see, and then people, they're good for me because it keeps customers coming back. Because they see them develop and they see the red go redder and the black get blacker, and then they go, "Oh, I didn't realise I was going to do that." So then they come and buy some more. So you get a lot of return sales off Matsunosuke fish, but they do. I mean, you know, I think you've spoke about it before about the male fish, and I think now most breeders in Japan are trying to develop a male with big body, and that's what they're all trying to do. And I think Shintro's no different than that, because he, you know, you look at it, you know, you're probably looking at 70% of all the fish that they keep are male. You know, and there is an argument that they just want to get rid of those fish, and they don't want to have to sell them cheap. You know, so they are trying to get the bigger bodies on the fish, and you know, and stuff like that. And I think Matsunosuke's not doing it. He's still a big believer in female only. But Shintro's definitely trying.
So that was something I was going to obviously not being, and he's not here to ask. So is it something, obviously he'll know he's had that trait in that body for all them years, but is it something he's actively aware of and working on, or is there reasons he's wanting to keep to what he's doing? Because
I think there's
qualities to them fish that are unrivaled in a lot of ways.
With the Sankis, he doesn't mess with it. But with the Kahaku and the Showa,
actively more
he did use Matsunosuke bloodline on the Kahaku, but then he stopped. And I think he uses an Ogami. I know that the female Sensuke, I don't know where he got it from, but he uses an Ogami male, and then I think he uses an Ogami male on his Showa as well. And I think he's got a big. I think it's I can't remember not Taniguchi. Is it Taniguchi? He's got a Taniguchi Showa as well that he uses on the female side of it. But this year, like I said, he bought a nice Showa from Hiroi Seiji, and I was trying to understand why he'd done it and stuff like that. This male fish, and I know he paid a lot of money for it. He paid a lot of money for it, and I was trying, and he just said, I think this fish could be the future of my Showa line, you know, and I'm like, well, fantastic, let's see, you know. But because the Sanki look after themselves, but the Kahaku and the Showa, they're just getting better and better now with him, and they are, but he just doesn't, because they're new, you don't have the numbers. So your numbers are down. Difficult, so after you've culled, your numbers are down, but that'll just come in time. That'll just come in time. But like I said, you know, it's always nice to go there and see what he's doing, and you know, and he helps us out. He helps me out a lot. People think that we're, you know, joined at the hip or something like that, but it's not like that. I mean, Saito will help me out with health certificates, you know, when they're doing, because you know, with the vet and everything, you've got to be, there's no point in me trying to do broken English or something like that. But the shipper I use speaks perfectly English and stuff. That's his other son, but he's got nothing to do with Shintro Koi family. He has his own shipping business, so you know, the shipping's dead easy and everything like that. But Saito will help me out with like vet certificates or something like that. And there's many, I don't speak perfect Japanese by far, you know, but my broken Japanese and their broken English, we sort of like meet in the middle somewhere. But there is times where it gets a little bit complicated, especially when it comes round to organising the shipping and stuff like that. So sometimes I'll say, Marisho, right? He makes no attempt whatsoever to speak in. He doesn't even try. He won't even speak slow. Right? He just speaks at full speed. So if I've got fish there, I've got to take him, because otherwise I'm just stood there like that for like 10 minutes, and he's just all I'm seeing is a mouth moving.
It's funny you mention him.
You just can't.
I've even been where I know what Japanese I speak has gone down perfectly well at 99% of other places, and he's the one going. No clue. And then he starts on. I mean, you'll be in there like that, and he'll say, you hear oyagoi. Right, and then he shows it you, and he's just going on and on, and you just slow down a bit, slow down, and he's like, anybody won't, you know what I mean? So there is some of the old school breeders where I do need a bit of help to, especially when it comes to this going in that box, that side in that box, you know, and stuff like that, trying to get in, and then finding out, you know, like getting your weights and stuff like that off him. But he does, but also he's got the fastest internet
in Mushigami. He's got the best dinners in Mushigami. But again, because as soon as we've got customers there, like at night time, he's out. He's out with us because he thinks that's really important.
But it's a big part of that experience. I remember my early days, being sat at a breeder was like, at dinner with a breeder was like being out with the biggest celebrity in Hollywood. In the choir, that's what it felt like. So it's a huge part of it for him. So hats off.
But he sees that, and he gets to know every single customer. And if there's any issues or anything, he'll just say, "Oh yeah, I'll do that. I'll take you there. Whatever you want to do." He's trying to push his younger son out now, and his younger son's very shy, and even though he speaks very good English, but he doesn't believe he speaks very good English. So he's sort of like, I'll have a message in the morning when I'm leaving the hotel. Can you pick Kosuke up? Like that, and then so I say, yeah, we'll pick him up, and he'll just sit in the car silent all day until we go into these breeders. But he wants him to. Yeah. He doesn't know all the breeders, so he wants to go around and introduce himself to. And there's been a lot like that. There's a lot of people that say to us, can you go and introduce them to so and so? So you think they all know each other, but they don't.
Yeah. That's good.
So, but yeah, no, it's like I say, it's a great place, and I just can't wait to get back.
It is fair play. So thanks for your time, Tim.
No worries, mate.
I've enjoyed that. It's obviously I can only speak from my experience, and there's big blocks of the industry that I weren't even born at the time. No. So it's nice to sort of learn them and show everyone else.
It's hard to remember them now. Everything's changed again. You're always on this new path.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good.
So anybody interested in going to Japan, look Tim up, Koi Trips.
Not this year though, please, no more this year. Not this year.
No more this year, folks. Happy days. And obviously look him up on YouTube if you haven't already, and follow his videos. So thanks for your time, Tim, and we'll be back soon.
Yeah, good stuff.